we talked a little bit about Game of Thrones. I want to say last week, maybe it was the week before that, and I have been a diehard fan, pretty much ride or die since season 6 is when I first started watching it live. I don't go all the way back to season 1, so before season 6 came out, I binged 1 through 5, and then I started catching 6, week to week, and 7 week to week, and now I'm on season 8, and I've been watching it week to week, and it's amazing. I don't know how your feed has looked like over the past 2 weeks, but my Facebook group, Movies Are Terrible, has basically become the Game of Thrones chat room. You know what I mean? And it's intense. People who are on both sides of the thing are extremely passionate. There's been a lot of debates, a lot of heated arguments, and it seems like that a lot of the criticisms are valid, while at the same time, a lot of the people who are the most critical of it are just totally dismissing all of the amazing aspects of this series. The first time I ever saw this kind of outrage culture in my life was with The Last Jedi. Well, The Last Jedi had a petition started where the fans, the quote-unquote fans, they wanted to get Rian Johnson to redo that film or have somebody else redo that film. With this season of Game of Thrones, there is a petition that's reached right around 1 million people so far that have signed it, saying that we want to rewrite the last season of Game of Thrones and have it redone with quote-unquote competent writers. There's other examples, right? I know. Can you think of any other examples right now? We were talking about.
So one of my first experience, not first, but one of the ones that popped in my head was the 2014 Ninja Turtles. I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan.
And then we have Sonic, and then there was the other one that you said, Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. It seems like there's a new one every other day.
So as far back, the first one I remember is when Michael Keaton was cast for Batman. And then you think about the outrage around Heath Ledger as the Joker. So fan outrage over things ahead of time is not a new thing. But first of all, what do you think about the effectiveness of petitions?
Well, I think now apparently they're working, which is something I personally don't like. I always think of that quote from, I think it was Ford, where he said, if I would have asked people what they would have wanted, they would have just asked me for a faster horse. And there's people who create and there's people who don't create. And I don't think you're allowed to criticize, but I really think the artist should create it.
Yeah. These guys are the professionals, and that's what always bothers me is when you're talking about, let's just throw a number out there, 150 million fans. How could any ending satisfy all 150 million of those fans? There's no outcome that is going to check the boxes on everything that each of these different people want. That is an impossible, thankless task. Well, so I don't agree with that. You asked me, I've had serious problems with Game of Thrones season 8. I don't dislike it. It stings a little bit because I'm all for the decisions that have been made have been fine. I feel like there's been a lot of inevitability building up to where we are now in the series. That said, I felt like the movie itself and the fan base itself misread many of the clues, many of the elements of foreshadowing. They looked at these things as victories, as a hero doing something that was fair and just, not realizing that this character was kind of losing part of their morality. Does any of this make sense to you? Am I talking vague enough that...
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's not, familiar with the series at all, it's all in... Well, I don't really have social media, so it hasn't been my feed, but everyone around me at work's been talking about it nonstop, and everyone seems to be pretty pissed about it.
A lot of people seem to be mad about Khaleesi's turn in the last episode.
Well, here's my thing, is as someone who I love storytelling, I think it's pretty... Misdirection is great. Foreshadowing that you can misread is great. I love shit like that. And to me, I feel like people and they do this often. They create a storyline that they want in their own head. And then that storyline doesn't meet that. And they're like, well, that wasn't what was supposed to happen. No, that was what was supposed to happen. What wasn't supposed to happen was your weird fanfic that you created in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And on top of that, though, I do not dismiss these people that have been so invested for 8-10 years. And the fact that they feel like the actual objective quality of the writing has gotten a little bit more stodgy, which it has. That's something that I can speak to, because the Daenerys thing, I always expected it to happen. It was always being foreshadowed that it was going to happen, but we didn't get to feel it in a gradual enough transition. It was like every time she did something very like what a conqueror would do, it was treated as if like, hell yeah, girl power. And that was never the point of it. There was always supposed to be this underlying, like, this is scary. Huh?
Yeah. Like an underlying uneasiness about it.
Correct. But the music cues sometimes deceived you and let you think that this was like a good thing, because I think so many people started to kind of project like, oh, she's a symbol of female empowerment. Well, every character on this show is incredibly flawed. I don't think any of them make good role models, and you shouldn't name your kids after them. But anyways, I thought it was audacious for people to want to call these guys incompetent writers. They've given us 7.5 seasons worth of the best TV on television, and then a half a season of a series that's better than everything else on television, but just not as good as what the other seasons were.
Well, and that's my thing. Is if I'm a firm believer, if you don't like the show, go write a better show. If you don't like someone's podcast, go make a better podcast. Like, that's the way you should do. Instead of, well, I'm just going to go ahead and just change, I want to change their vision. That's their vision. Like, it's their product. We have this weird thing in fandom now where people feel ownership over a product. And I get it. I always say it, I have Ninja Turtles and anime tattoos. I've been let down by both of them, but that's their story to tell. It's not mine. It's my story to take, but it's not my story. And I feel like too many people feel ownership, like almost like a creator ownership over something that they did not create.
Yeah. So what was one of the movies that you mentioned? How did that whole thing play out?
So Ninja Turtles, as the biggest Ninja Turtle fans, I wasn't angry at the creators. I was angry at the fan base. So the new 2014 movie came out, heavily influenced by the IDW comics. No one knows that because no one reads the fucking comics. So heavily influenced by the IDW comics. The character designs, people are like, they are terrifying. Heavily influenced by the Michael Zulli comic book designs. No one knows that because they don't read the comics. And it had all these nods to a lot of comics, as well as a lot of nods to the original stuff as well. There are problems with the film, 100%. Just like, guess what? Every Ninja Turtle film sucks. I love them, but they all suck.
Yeah.
And so it was that. So we had this really good first attempt. It was a good 2014 movie. The internet, and it did great. Critical failure, commercial success. Twitter exploded. People freaked out about the designs. They freaked out that it was too serious. They freaked out about everything. And they told him apparently that he was going to be able to do more freedom on the second one as long as this one was successful. Huge commercial success. They can him because Twitter. Because people are freaking out and tweeting at Paramount all the time. So they're like, all right, you guys get it. You will get something true to that dumb 80s cartoon. That the original Ninja Turtle cartoon is unwatchable. It's garbage. As someone who loved it growing up, it's bad. It's a bad show. So they do a show that is they do a second movie, Out of the Shadows, that is very, 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 very similar to the original cartoon in tone and everything. Yeah. It's unwatchable. It's so bad.
I prefer it.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Because my frame of reference and my experience are different than yours. I was always the cartoon guy.
Well, and then that movie tanked, the second one. Yes. So they had to kill it.
Yeah.
Because people don't know what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you listen, it's like, who are we listening to? The 1 million people that signed the petition, or the X million people that didn't sign the petition? It's like, yeah, there's some really angry people here, but obviously a lot of people, it didn't affect them in that way. So, okay, what about the Mass Effect thing?
So gaming is another thing that really annoys me. So I was not a big Mass Effect fan. I played a little bit of the first, never played the second, never played the third. My brother beat all three of them. I'm kind of paraphrasing. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. They would go ahead and you could carry over your story, and then it was kind of going to be like a choose your adventure, multiple endings. Apparently, people were not happy with the ending, and Twitter and Reddit and all these others, where people were mad with the ending because they felt screwed. And as far as I know, Mass Effect, the creators of Mass Effect, BioWare, came out and patched out the ending to give a better ending to the game. And my brother, who played all three of them, was super happy with the ending. He's like, yeah, it was not like a happy ending. It wasn't what people wanted, but I actually kind of appreciated it for the story they told. And instead of sticking to their guns, apparently they kind of like half-ass stick to their guns, which I'm assuming if you're patching out the end of the game, there's only so much you can do anyway.
Yeah.
And they literally patched out a new ending into the game to appease the fans. And to speak to your point, the vast majority of people don't give a shit. Look at Call of Duty. If you watch any video game podcast, everyone hates Call of Duty. It's the worst game ever. Guess what? It's the best-selling game year after year.
Everybody
after
else
year.
loves it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people, Call of Duty is a smart game. They're like, people, when they took out the single player of Call of Duty, internet exploded. Oh, all the gamers were mad. They're like, we don't give a fuck. We know the vast majority of you don't play the single player. You just play multiplayer games. They saved production budget and made just as much money. And it's the same thing with Mass Effect. I'm assuming your average gamer didn't give two shits.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's like with the Game of Thrones thing, the most critically derided, the ones the fans hated the most, still has the most views of any of them. It broke all sorts of numbers, you know?
Yes, I'm sure that's crazy numbers that it's doing.
And it's interesting. So it's like, do the diehard Game of Thrones fans, like I kind of consider myself, do we just not like that it's so accessible? Is that like we're just all elitist? Like, well, it used to be better back before your fucking normie ass came around, or I don't know. There's so many different psychological sides to it. Everybody wants to act like they're the best and the most knowledgeable about it and things like that. But I think, is there a better version of Game of Thrones to be told? Maybe in the end. Maybe somebody could redo the season and do a better job. The Last Jedi, maybe. I really doubt it's these Redditors that are starting these freaking petitions. I doubt they're the ones that are going to come in and make a better story. But what I do have to, like, in the case of, like, Sonic the Hedgehog, everybody was pissed about the way that Sonic looked. And so the studio decided that they were going to go in there and change it at the last minute. Did you like the look of Sonic?
I had no problem with it at all.
Do you think that setting the precedent that now, if you don't like the way a character looks and you get enough signatures, that the filmmakers will go back and correct it?
I think it's stupid as shit. I think they should have said no. So first of all, that movie's going to tank. The movie looks horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it. So first of all, I can go on a rant about that. I won't go too far, but like setting Sonic in the real world, dumb as shit. Why did they do that? They should have done it like the Pokemon movie. It's set in a different universe, as it should be. So there's a lot of problems with it. Least of it is Sonic. He looked like a realistic version of Sonic. You know, like that's what Sonic would kind of look like if he were around. And I don't like setting the precedent of, oh, if you freak out enough and if you guys throw enough hissy fits, because perfect example, you brought it up earlier, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's announcement, people would have lost their shit. Just like I'm pretty sure you've heard already that Robert Pattinson got announced as Batman.
Oh,
as
yeah,
a new
we were
Batman.
headed there too.
Yeah, already freak out. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see when it comes out. See how it looks.
Yeah. And that is that. So my kind of point about the Sonic thing is if it is for the greater good, if film is a collaborative process and ultimately you want people to show up to your movies, should the fans be a part of that collaboration? I still kind of fall in the camp of no, that they shouldn't. They're not professionals. But at the same time, if they're not going to go see the movie afterwards, maybe it's worth listening to them. I don't know. It gets complicated like that. But yeah, you bring up the next point, and that is Robert Pattinson was recently maybe cast as Batman. It's still not 100% confirmed, but everybody has run with that topic, and people have decided they ain't happy about it. Batman is the single most scrutinized series, and this is kind of hyperbolic, but of all casting in all movies ever since the beginning, nobody's been good enough for the Batman. Nobody's been good enough for the Joker. Every casting decision they've ever made was wrong. And here we are again, not even learning from our past experiences to say, just shut the fuck up, give it a second, you might actually like it. So first of all, separate from the drama, Robert Pattinson, could he be a good Batman?
I don't know. I think he's a good actor. I guess I'll have to see. I think he could be.
Are you one of the people that subscribe to the idea that he could pull off Bruce Wayne, but he couldn't be Batman?
No, I mean, I'm just one of those people. I always like to see, like, they got the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You to play the Joker, and he killed it. You know, like, wait to see the performance.
I get existential with people because obviously Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. I'm like, look, you're hiring Bruce Wayne, so you need an actor that can play Bruce Wayne, and now it's Bruce Wayne's job to be able to pull that performance out of Batman, to be able to throw himself, his psyche, into this other persona. But you can't obviously cast two distinct... He's not the Incredible Hulk or something. Yeah. You don't cast two distinct people to play him. I like Robert Pattinson, and I haven't seen the Twilight movies to tarnish his reputation. Most of the movies that he's like critically praised for, like Cosmopolis and a couple of the other ones, I haven't seen those. But I watched this movie called Good Time like 2 weeks ago. And it just totally changed the way that I saw Robert Pattinson. And now I'm like, the dude he's somebody I really respect because he was making points off the Twilight movies. He never had to work again. He became like this teenage heartthrob where like prepubescent girls were going crazy over him. He didn't really have a lot of credibility. So he pulled back from acting and he went and started pursuing like independent movie roles and wasn't taking the big checks just to prove that he was actually an actor. And I think that he's reemerged as being one of the more talented people in the industry today. Does he look a little young? Does he read a little bit young to me? Yeah, he does, but I think he's about the same age Michael Keaton was in the original Batman movie.
Well, and from all the stories, I think this is going to be a Batman origin story. It's going to be year one. It's
sure.
kind of, so, well, and my thing that I find super ironic, why do we have Robert Pattinson now? Because everyone freaked out about Ben Affleck. That's why we have it, is because of fan outrage.
So you don't think people... in my experience, people liked Ben Affleck.
Oh, people in the film community love him. Everyone else hates Ben Affleck.
Okay.
They hate, like, go talk to anyone at your work, they hate Ben Affleck as Batman. They never really even saw the movie, but they heard that he sucked.
They've never seen Ben Affleck in a movie in general. They just know that that's what other idiots said.
Yes, because Ben Affleck's another guy who's a hell of an actor.
Yeah.
When people were I remember when he got cast, I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I was actually shocked at the outrage from it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? And everyone referenced Gigli or whatever.
Of course, the worst movie on the person's. And it's like, that's not my fault that your only frame of reference is the shitty movies you watch. You know what I mean? Like, maybe if you would have seen more than Twilight, you wouldn't hate this guy for it.
Well, and that's why I see with the Robert Pattinson thing, everyone's like, oh, the guy from Twilight. I'm like, and a bunch of other fucking films where he's apparently amazing. I mean, I haven't seen a bunch of it, but I've heard like he has some amazing performances out there.
I think you would like Good Time a lot. It's really, really gritty. It's funny. It's dark. He doesn't have an English accent in it. I think that he is a good pick for the job. I wouldn't hate to see Nicholas Hoult get it either. You know, I think that's fine. But like, I think we can both agree. Like, I don't want to see the precedent become, if the internet doesn't like you, we're going to change it to make them happy, because we're just such a temperamental group of people. I don't think there's ever going to be a place where consensus is just all the way across the board.
Who would be your dream casting of Batman?
Man, I was thinking about it yesterday. I had a hard time with it. My buddy Julio brought up the good points. Are we talking about year one? Are we talking about the old grizzled Batman? What is it that you would like to see out of the character? I really like the pick of all things, and I don't know how good he would be, but what's his name? Gerard Butler has a good look for an older Batman. But I also think that Robert Pattinson would be a pretty legit pick, man.
So one of my favorites is, like, I think I still stand by, even after seeing the movies, that, well, except for Justice League, because that was kind of fan outrage too, that we chopped up that movie and they got a worse movie out of it anyway. But I think Ben Affleck was brilliant, and he
was great.
And then I think John Hamm would make a hell of a Batman.
John Hamm kind of falls in that same age group as Ben Affleck, and I like Batman at that age. Gerard Butler also falls into that kind of, like, you know, they're almost 50 or right around their 50s and stuff like that. And I think that they have the look for Batman. I think what's cool about Robert Pattinson is, if they do want to make this year one, that they can stick around with him for a while, because even though he reads incredibly young. He looks like he could be the 23-year-old Bruce Wayne or 25-year-old Bruce Wayne. He's actually 33 years old, so he's not a super young guy, and I think it's tough for guys with that kind of look to get cast as ultra masculine people. And physicality is an important part of Batman, and I've never seen Robert Pattinson be able to sell me on like a physical scene. So that would be one concern.
They will pack muscle on him like no one else.
Yeah. He'll end up being 70 pounds heavier and just fucking yoked. Yeah.
That's what they do. I mean, look at Chris Evans now to when he started before pre-Marvel Chris Evans. Those are two different men, or even Star-Lord, you know, those are different. They'll do the same thing. Look at Wolverine from then to now. Like, they will pack muscle on Robert Pattinson. He will look like Batman by the end of it.